thanks a lot for this invitation, Moria and Nicole and Vertical. Uh, I really like what you are doing. It's very, very important. I myself watched some of the classes and talks, and I'm really honored to be here and to be considered as someone who is something to say. you know. Well, I'm Lucas from Córdoba, Argentina. Uh, Córdoba is the second city uh, in size after Buenos Aires. I studied, I draw since I am a child, and I studied visual arts. Um, Sorry, can you hear me well?
Yes, we can actually hear you. I can hear you very well, at least.
Okay. Because my AirPods stopped working. I don't know why. So I will continue through the phone. I hope the audio quality is okay.
Yes, it's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. So I was saying that I draw since I'm a kid, and when I was 17, I entered visual arts university here in Córdoba, Argentina, and studied painting. Um, and like 5 years after that, I started working with digital tablets and pursued a career doing freelance work like illustration, comics, and painting sometimes. Worked with some galleries, and here mainly in the branch of street art, and did some murals and walls and stuff. And in 2017, I got access to a grant. Um, it was about art and technology, and this grant allowed me to have my first decent computer in all my life, like a gamer PC, and also a VR headset. And I started like working with VR since then, and trying to, I don't know, connect the ways of the traditional to the ways of these new media possibilities. And in 2020, in the middle of the pandemic times, where I was suddenly jobless, uh, I got uh, to access to this crypto ecosystem that basically saved my life, because I was like, oh, okay, I don't know what I will do in the future, so uh, I took that opportunity, and well, here I am. That is mainly my story.
Wow, that's so wonderful. I'm pretty sure that this will be very interesting to Reverse, who who is very much into VR. Um, that's mildly put. And I'm pretty sure that she has questions for you.
Yeah, sure. Any
Hello.
question?
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, my name is Reverse Butcher. You can call me Rev if you like. I'm from Melbourne, Australia, and yeah, I'm a big VR nerd. So I'm wondering what kind of equipment you are making, and what kind of equipment. Sorry, it's very early here. What kind of equipment you're using to make? You said you got your first VR headset. What kind?
Well. I currently still using my first VR headset that is from 2017. Like I said, it's a Oculus CB1, but now it's like in a poor state. It's the sound is not working anymore, so I have to use headphone. And I'm about to buy a Oculus Quest 2. So because I think it's the natural step right now. But until this moment, it is giving me great comfort to use it. I didn't change it that before because like uh, I dwell a lot into VR artist groups in Facebook, for example, and many people said that the CB1 is still the most comfortable to use, and that for me is very important because I tend to sculpt for several hours, sometimes I don't know 6 hours in a row. Uh, of course, I took it off from time to time, but it's like I don't know. I am not a sculptor. I am a painter and a drawing artist, but I feel like I am sculpting, because of the time it it is taking. Right now, I'm working with huge scenes with a lot of models, 3D scanned models. I can talk about that also, but um, but it was like a lot of trial and error in these years. I realized that I needed a lot of RAM. I started with 8 gigabytes of RAM and it was hell. It was very difficult. Now I have 64 gigabytes and it's working very good. But I'm still working with the same equipment of 2017. My computer is a i5. I don't know, it's okay, but if it's correct, but it's an Intel 5 and I have mm, I have also bought an iPad with a structure sensor. That is the tool I use for my 3D scanning. That is basically that is circling an object, taking photos at different heights, and then putting all those photos into a 3D photogrammetry software and like reconstruct the 3D model. It was very good, but I needed something that was more like faster in a workflow, more fluid. So I started searching about how other possible ways of doing this, and I got access to this scanner that allows me like more freedom in a way than photogrammetry because it allows me to when you do photogrammetry the model has to be extremely still, very still. If the model is standing and she is raising her hand, for example, uh, the the movement of the body, like the body flow, the blood flow, is it's causing like this little trembling, and that is enough to not having a good output in photogrammetry. But in 3D scanning, it's more free. It's more like a game in a way because I can circle around the models and they can be standing, they can be reaching her hands up to the sky. I don't know, like even they can be moving in a very slow way, and the scanner like captures different stages of the moment, like several arms and that kind of stuff. And so for me it's a very fun way to access these 3D models. And the models that this 3D scanner is giving me, they are very optimized. They are good resolution and low size, so I can put them right away into VR. And in VR, I work mainly with Oculus Medium, that is now Adobe Medium, and now is Adobe Modeler also. But I'm working with Adobe Medium, that is sculpting and painting software, and I find it extremely fun. to work, because I did 3D work before with ZBrush and stuff, but this is another level, like the uh, the approach to it is similar to work with paint, like facing a large size canvas where you use all your body to paint, and you have gestures, and you have like the emotion of moving yourself to create the body, and you can be very subtle or very I don't know, enraged when you are working. So I feel like comparing sculpting in VR to sculpting in ZBrush is like painting compared to office work, like be sitting in front of a computer and just clicking the mouse. So yes, I hope that answered your question, and ask anything.
Absolutely. Look, I mean, your work is so beautiful and so expressive. I really understand what you mean about the idea of being, natively moving things around in VR and sculpting things in VR. What I think is so beautiful about what you make is you get this sense of emotion and drive and movement. You capture this movement. And maybe it's because you're sort of moving things around or building a scene from the scans as well as the paint. And yeah, it's so painterly. It's beautiful. The question I had though was, how are you finding Adobe Modeler? I've used it a little bit here and there too, but between Medium and Modeler, do you have a preference yet, or?
Well, thank you. Thanks a lot for this, for your words. Um, I really liked movement before when I was painting. I always liked like um, the frozen movement. Like these moments, like sport pictures, for example. I love that because you're able to see like a fraction of a moment, but in the whole detail. Like for example, uh, an action scene from a movie. Sometimes I was in the cinema and I was like, oh, I want to see that more in detail. Like I want uh, to froze time, and suddenly with these new tools, I am able to do that. So in a way, painting is the same, because you are moving like your arm, and in a way that you can reconstruct as a viewer. You can see all the decisions a painter has done, like when you are analyzing a work, and this it's like a diary of how the artist was on that day when painting. So I felt like it was a natural continuation of uh, that urge to create, and I didn't feel that when I was using common ZBrush or 3D Studio or other softwares. And about your second question, I I didn't use, still didn't use even once Adobe Modeler, because I am like in deadline mode. I'm currently working from my local art fair. Uh, they commissioned me a large piece. It will be a VR installation. So I don't have the time to try a new software yet, but I am very curious. The thing with Adobe Medium is that it allowed me to import like, I don't know, 40 models at the same time, and I am working not only uh, on a model but on a whole scene. I do like this huge sphere that I paint from the inside to make the sky of the scene and put all the models inside. And this particular work is I scanned like a lot of paintings, a lot of sculptures mainly, and I am creating this surreal world with a lot of things to look at in different directions, uh, like an infinite exploding world of different fragments of art created here locally. And it's amazing because I feel like I am building a scene, not a single model. So I was worried that Adobe Modeler was more centered into one model, like the name says, no? So have you tried it?
I have tried it, and I think that it's going to be a really good program when it's fully cooked. But it's probably still not. Well, I mean, it's definitely not fully cooked. It's still in beta, so it's got some really strong things going for it. Specifically about being able to work within a headset, take the headset off, and then work with it on desktop if that's your jam.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really interesting to hear that you're assembling the whole scenes within Adobe Medium. Like, do you ever because you're creating basically one giant, like what, FBX or one OBJ
Yeah.
file? Yeah, that's
Yes.
amazing. Great. No, because I do something similar, but I usually just do one figure per scene, but the figure's made up of lots of tiny, fine detail parts. So I'm
Yeah.
not scanning things. I'm natively sculpting things. But your workflow sounds really interesting with the scanning and getting the movement to sort of like create multiple arms and all that frenzy that's present in your work. I can't wait to see what you've made for this recent commission. But do you ever produce immersive experiences that people can access remotely, or is it all sort of like prints or location-based VR that you do?
Well, I did, but only locally right now, because the I have like very limited experience doing uh, experiences, VR experiences, and they tend to end in a Unreal Engine file, like many gigabytes weight. So it's kind of difficult to watch them online. Um, I had this last work I did. It's called Procession, that you can see in my super rare space page and also in Instagram. And it's like a series of different figures, like walking together. And to be more clear about my my method, I do work. I do put all these elements, even background. It's interesting because I still think of these views of these experiences to be viewed from a single point of view, because I still think I am thinking as a painter, and for example, for this experience, it is a space that I'm creating, but this space only has sense viewed from one point. It's more or less like a diorama, like you see it from the front. So I work creating the scannings, but then when I have to export, I export one by one. The elements is not like a giant OBJ file like I said before. It's a giant medium file, but then I have to export file by model by model. So it's a lot of work of merging layers and checking resolution and a lot of stuff to send it to the 3D render. And sometimes they finish in Unreal. And I did some experiences locally, where you put, for example, like 2 years ago, or no, even more, like before the pandemic, I did this Unreal experience using Oculus Go. That was a standalone VR headset that is currently out of the market. But it was like you were like a point in space, and you only can were able to watch in all the directions, uh, but not moving. Now I am doing this experience where you can move around this is huge scene with a limited, of course, a limited section that is the limits of the Oculus Quest right now. But uh, it will be my first time doing this kind of experiences. Before it was, like I said, that just the viewer viewing, and maybe this experience will have also a little bit of interaction, the possible interaction with the viewer. I am right now constructing all the work, and then I will work with some people that are experts in Unreal to give it some layers of particles floating in the air, some like I don't know, northern lights in the type of thing in the sky, and I don't know, maybe some interaction with some of the models. So I'm very excited about it. Let's see how it ends.
I'll be following to see when you release that, because I'm very excited to see and hear what happens with that work. Um, you're talking about earlier about how you're creating works, or you were before this particular work that focused on a 3D scene, but to be seen from one angle like a painting, which is again really interesting to me. And I can see on your Instagram here you're using the golden ratio and all of the same kinds of framing and
Oh,
techniques that you're using, that a painter would use. Um, I just it's so lovely to see something that looks both glitched and digital, but also so classically based. Like you've got it's just lovely. I'm wondering how you get some of those actual painted techniques in there. Are you scanning physical paint, like traditional paint that's on a canvas, and then importing it and doing that? Or are you using substance materials to apply to models, or how are you doing that? If you're okay with saying.
yeah. I don't like to have secrets. In this Web3 scenario, I don't believe in secrets. I believe in spreading information. It's like the main core for me, at least. Uh, well, the yes, I do scan sometimes paint, like paint strokes or stuff like acrylics, oils, or different materials, and put them with substance over a model. But a lot of the painterly aspect of the models is done right away in Medium, because I one thing I really love about Medium is that it has his own gesture. If you move your arm uh, fast and you click the trigger of the controls strongly, you will have like this kind of gesture in a way. So if you work very subtly, you will have another. So I felt like it's the same with painting. I feel like I am pushing pixels or pushing voxels to be more precise in a VR environment, and it mimics the way that matter, physical matter, um, acts. So it was very natural for me, and it was completely different to work with mouse or even with the digital pencil, the digital tablet. Uh, And I think like a lot of the painterly look is also from the need I have to construct like a liminal space between the 2D pictorial space, to say it, like the 2D probabilities of painting. Like when you're painting, you can be very realistic, you can do perspective, you can fake depth of field, and all that other aspects of creation are present in 3D in VR. So I try to create, I still don't accomplish it, like a language that is in the liminal zone, in the middle, right in the middle of those worlds, because I am in love with the possibilities of painting in a way, because it's infinite. It's infinite. But also this, you know, I said in some interviews, like when I was painting with canvas and a brush, I felt like the weight of history in my shoulders, like all these masters, these painters, looking me from the sky and saying, no, 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 what you're painting is trash. So it's a very patriarchal backpack, art backpack to have. It's a weight. So when I get to this new media, I felt that I have the opportunity to do my own thing. And so in that way, I don't have to compare myself either with traditional masters or with super skilled 3D artists in the sphere, because there is a lot of people working with a lot of knowledge, and I am not a very technical person. I really like to to move my body, to paint, to do stuff physically. But I don't like to connect nodes in a 3D software. I have to learn, and I will continue to learn it, but I don't really like it. I love to work. I'm a crafty person. So I feel like all those aspects are I do painterly stuff because I cannot do the other way, uh, basically.
But what you're
And
doing, I wouldn't want you to be doing something the other way. There's a lot of people that can make CGI art, and that's great. That's a different thing altogether. But what you're doing is very unique because you're blending this sort of fine art, painterly style with the cutting edge 3D stuff. And it's been my experience too with VR artists, other VR artists, is that we are self taught a lot of the time because they're it's so new.
yeah, yeah. But when I got my VR headset, I spent like 2 years trying stuff with that, and didn't. I couldn't find what I wanted to do with that, and it was like very frustrating for me, because thought to myself, oh, I have this tool that I got by a grant, but with the grant we did a different experience using VR with a psychologist and a coder, but it was altogether different. So I was like trying a lot, and I realized that I am really not a sculptor. I don't like to work from scratch, like creating the model, because it was the same as painting and drawing from imagination, and I was in a place that I felt like both in painting and in VR I was like doing cliches in a way, because I paint since ever, and I was like getting into a roadblock. So when I encountered these VR possibilities like 3D scanning, but not only VR, but 3D scanning and photogrammetry, it was like mind blowing for me, because I was not working from fantasy or from my limited view, but just getting these chunks of real world into the space, and it felt like mundane and more honest to me. I felt like, oh, this person I love, I can scan it and I can freeze this moment forever. And that aspect is also what I love about the blockchain and crypto. Like this a capsule, a time capsule in a way. I really, really love that because I really like to capture these fleeting moments of action, of being in the world, and freezing that for history. I love that.
It's so fabulous. The experience of being within an artwork, it feels like you're in, well, for me anyway, it feels like you're in the artwork, in the illustration or the painting or the sculpture. And it's interesting to me too that you say that, you don't identify as a sculptor.
Yeah.
Because like there's sort of like additive and subtractive sculpting and all sorts of methods that people can use. Like you can start with a ball or a cube and cut away from something, or paint, or layer on top of. And what you're doing is entirely unique. Like using reference models the way you do as well. Like it sort of reminds me that painters and sculptors, traditionally throughout all the eras have used live models to sit and that kind of thing. And you're basically taking that tradition and carrying it onto the digital realm. You're sharing that frozen moment, which is lovely, lovely. And it's not trying to be sort of like something that is a mirror to reality, like that it's exactly the same, which virtual reality, I don't know if you feel this way, it can't quite do that yet. But it can get close, but it's not quite there yet. But you're bringing this sense of super reality to it, this heightened imaginal space that you're building. And it's just lovely. I can't say enough nice things about your work. Sorry, I'm a big fan.
Thank you. Yeah, I still feel like we are in prehistoric times about immersion and the possibilities of immersion. That, like, to be honest, sometimes I feel like when I put my VR headset to enter um, a VR space like, I don't know, the Central Land or whatever uh, space, and I go to an exhibition to see finally JPEGs, square JPEGs in a wall. It's very cruel to me. It's like I want to I want for my works to be experienced like when you enter a room in a museum full of sculptures, like a sculpture installation, and you can go from one point to another, and you can experience it the way your body tells you to. Uh, that for me will be the most amazing thing. So I feel like I am creating for a space that is not yet developed. So, but yes, it's very, I don't know, adventurous in a
Yeah,
way.
I so understand what you mean. When you're creating 3D artworks, you end up with 3D, assets, OBJ files or GLB files or FBX files. Do you ever, or have you ever considered using AR or other kinds of 3D technology to display your artworks, or are they mostly for sort of like, well, I mean, you were talking about seeing them from one angle, so that's printed, but yeah, how do you feel about using AR technology or other kinds of 3D tech with your
Um,
end assets?
well, I still feel like most of the AR works that I look, uh, there are exceptions, but most of them they feel like very jittery, shaky, and for me, the experience of watching art through a cell phone is not very rewarding. So I uh, completely love the experience, the body experience that is immersing into VR. I really love uh, what people um, experiences especially when they aren't from an art or technology background. It's like watch them like being kids again, and that is magical for me. That is truly magical. So I still not find other way. I did experience with 3D printing. I bought a 3D printer before I get to VR, and I did some very fun experiments. And maybe I will continue. I did like these installations, physical installations, when I have these models sticking out of the walls, or plants built in 3D. But again, I felt like because the constraints of the physical world was present, no. So when I had to install those, I had to call my sculptor friends, and they were able to uh, work it properly, because I am not a very I don't know how to say it, very handy person. I don't like to work with a hammer and a nail. I don't even like to stretch a canvas. I like painting because it's very subtle, but I don't like to construct things and stuff. No, so I don't I don't get well with the physical world in a way. So I am really feel like I'm a lightweight being in VR. No, and things can be huge or very tiny, and it's I don't know. It's a dream world come true.
Yeah, like you're talking about with the scale, like are your works designed to be seen as like large or imposing within a space? Like is the viewer supposed to be very small, or are they supposed to be life size? Do you have some sort of image or preference in mind when you're creating a VR work?
Well, in this experience I am creating for the local art fair, the viewer will be human sized, and it will have like a splint. There's gonna be a splint where you put the VR headset. Is the right word, splint, like a pedestal, and where you put the VR headset, and that object will be the only object that will coexist in reality and in the virtual space. So you will have a physical uh, anchor, yes, like a physical point of connection between those worlds. Um, the last year, I did exhibition with the curation of Samuel Arsenal Brosor, that is part of the residency, and it was great. It was a very very great experience. Samuel is an architect and also a VR sculptor, and he did this scanning of the room in Canada where the real exhibition was going to be, and he sent it back to me, and I like destroyed part of that 3D this room scanning. I destroyed part of that, and like I did this huge VR sculpture emerging from a nothingness into the room, and finally we put the 3D room overlapping with the physical room. So when you put on the headset, you were able to work entirely in the room, like circling around surrounding this huge physical, virtual sculpture, and you were like human size. I really like that approach. I really like the feeling of you are continuing to be you, but in this whole new world with different rules. For example, in that experience, the viewer were able to work to go around this model, and Franco Bellavita, that is also part of this residency, um, did the soundscape, and the soundscape was special. So it was very different if you go near the sculpture or far from it, if you move fast or move slow. So I am trying to continue the possibilities of the physical installation, where the body of the spectator is a part of the artwork, but in this new scenario.
I love what you're saying about this idea of having an anchor to the world, especially when you're putting people who don't work with VR every day, like new people. It's such a discombobulating experience. You get that sense of childhood wonder that you were talking about before. It's really interesting to hear about how you took the exhibition space from this Canadian exhibition and then turned it into an artwork or as part of the artwork. That's just such a fascinating process. And yeah, it does remind us that VR, artworks and exhibition spaces don't need to be rooted in physics. They don't have to exist by the same rules as, you know, walking around in real life gallery. What kind of benefits do you see or feel to this idea of bringing people into an imaginal space, but still making it recognizable enough to be comfortable for them?
Well, for example, in this work that I'm doing, you have no floor. You start the experience in a tiny floor, but you can move in different directions, and some of them you will have like models uh, very far away below your feet, also in the sky, also in other directions. Like I said, it's like an exploding world. So it can be very vertiginous, especially for people that never used VR. But I don't like to uh, to do a roller coaster type of experience um, for people. I like to be more tranquil, like contemplative in a way. But at the same time, my work is kind of vertiginous. It's like always exploding, always moving, but it's a frozen movement. But I don't like for people to get dizzy. So for me, it's very important for them to have this anchor point of feeling like I have this tiny fraction of the known world that is at the reach of my hand, and I can stand on it uh, to confront this other world. So, but because I don't want the sense of awe, of the feeling of this is a miracle, to be overcome by fear or by dizziness, raw dizziness that is very common in VR.
Yeah, I think that has something to do with the frames per second, doesn't it? Because the eye and the inner ear have to keep up with each other, and that's
Yeah,
one of the most common ideas of feeling seasick or yeah, confused in VR spaces. So it's interesting that you like to keep it chill because yeah, there are when people try to gamify fine artworks within VR spaces, it can be very overwhelming, and you want people to be able to focus on the experience.
exactly, exactly.
Yeah, I'm talking a lot, fam. So please jump in because yeah, I could talk about VR for days, and I feel like yeah, please ask your questions. I'm sure you all have them.
I'll jump in. Just so yeah, your work is really really like beautiful and inspiring, and you can see the painterly aspect of it. And I'm wondering, like for people who come from a more traditional art space, like a lot of us kind of work in physical, whether they're collage or cyanotypes, painting. How would you like recommend people like from a beginners to get into VR? Like, what are some more like because obviously the hardware and the software is like not the most accessible or expensive. So if you wanted to create something in VR, like where would you start as a beginner?
Well, once you get the equipment that, like I said, I didn't have money to buy a decent computer. until I got this grant. We got this grant with some friends, and right after, I was blessed enough to find a way into crypto space, and that allowed me to buy like these other tools. But the good thing about VR is good and bad thing at the same time is that the same basically the same software that was available in 2017 when I started this path is the same the same pretty much the same software. Like I use Tilbrush. Tilbrush was my first experience. That is now OpenBrush because Google didn't continue it. And I use Oculus Medium, that is now Adobe Medium, and now is continued with Adobe Modeler that I didn't use. And also there are other uh, pieces like master pieces of software like Masterpiece, um, and I don't remember the other one. So it's very limited in a way. Uh, at least for me, because what I am trying to do is very specific in a way. But I would encourage you to try like a lot of different tools. There are a lot of free tools in VR, luckily, because VR uh, is more driven into games, no? So some of the games are very expensive, but most of the tools are free or not so expensive, but they are limited. And at the same time, once you start using them, you get that they are very very open to experimentation. For example, I do work with Tilbrush for some very specific things. Like I found that uh, some brushes in OpenBrush, uh, once you export the work you are doing with those brushes, you get the OBJ or FVX file, and also a texture map. And I started to experiment with that texture map and change the texture of it, and also the alpha maps that works using work with transparency, what will be transparent and what will be visible in the final output. And I replaced the texture with textures of oil painting that I scanned. So there is a lot of things you can do with those free and available uh, tools, because OpenBrush is open, like it says, but it's also continuously changed by the artists themselves that are creating new ways, new tools, and different things, even more now than when it was owned by Google. So what I recommend you is to experience, like get into without fear and try different stuff until something clicks with you. No, I think that is the thing. Trying stuff, and maybe in some moment you will say, oh, I feel that this is allowing some part of me to express, and that can be like a long way. I did like I said, 2 years of experimentation with different. I did also animations with Quill. uh, Quill is a very beautiful software. uh, Basically, you can start a timeline that is looped, and you can draw, and it every trace, every stroke you do, it will be part of the timeline. So it will repeat once, one time, and again and again and again and again. So you can build on top of them, and you can create a whole scene scenario uh, made of your strokes. No, so it's fantastic. I don't do animation, but if I were interested in that, I will go deep, really deep into that. I am working, like, now it's 4 years working, 5 years working with VR, and I'm still continuing to discover new things in Adobe Medium. That is my tool, my main tool. So, like painting or drawing or anything in the real life, those tools are as deep as them. So yeah.
What sound collaboration you made with Franco Bellavita, who he's part of this residency. Is that the same Franco?
Yes, Franco Bellavita.
Yeah. Is that the first time you've used spatial sound in one of your 3D artworks, or?
Um, the Canada exhibition was the first time I did. I with with that previous experience I told you about, that I was using Oculus Go. I used sound not done by Franco, but it was not spatial. Um, um, I had worked with Franco with a lot in many NFTs. He did like the soundscapes for that. I met Franco like 10 or more 12 years ago in exhibition. I was working with 3D printing. I did this exhibition where figures were sticking out of the walls with another friend, and Franco was recording our labor in a museum. We did that in a museum, like it was a site-specific installation where we work with a lot of different materials, tapes, collage, painting, 3D printed works, and we were working in this house of a local master from the, I don't know, 200 years ago, that is now a museum, and we lived in that home, and Franco was like recording our craft uh, with in sounds, only in sound. And in that week, he constructed this this soundscape made of his own works. Like in he traveled the world, and he like recorded sounds of the woods of Russia, in Canada, and different places, and he built this spatial soundscape with not special in a way like VR, but it was special because sometimes he like recorded from the air, sometimes he was very close to our craft, and he recorded this slightest sound of the very subtle sounds of the um, pencil on paper and stuff, and created this beautiful, very beautiful experience for people. uh, so I think Franco he thinks especially in sound, so it was a natural progression to do actual soundscape using the special reference of the spectator, and it was very good. I hope Franco will be doing also. I still haven't told him, but I want to for him to create the soundscape for this new experience I'm building.
Sounds amazing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hi, Lucas. I have a couple of questions. First, thank you for your work and your presentation. And I didn't know your work, but I'm looking at it right now, and totally amazing and very inspiring. And I've had some experiences with VR, but I wanted to ask you about web VR. If you have used it or created pieces specifically for the web, and also because I've got one Oculus CV1, and I had these troubles trying to experiment this web VR with my Oculus. I don't know if it's something I can find or is something because I thought it was because the Oculus were too old for the new web VR. And I don't know if you can guide me or just give me some hints.
Yes, you are trying to enter, I don't know, Decentraland or Crypto Voxel or something like that with VR, and you are encountering troubles.
The computer is not finding the device. I can access like the applications through the Oculus software, but
Yeah,
not through the normal.
yeah. Well, it happened the same to me. With I don't know if it was Decentraland or Crypto Voxels or some of them. I wouldn't have the possibility to access it with the CB1, and maybe it's. I asked them, and they say they should work properly, but for some of them, I was able to enter the spaces, but not in many other cases. I wasn't able to. So maybe there is a general error in a way. And about your question of web VR, yes, I watched some experiences in VR in web VR that were like very good, but most of the time I feel like I am getting into a game from 20-25 years ago, and it kills my no sé, my experience. No, it kills my uh, it's
Flow.
yeah. Yes. It's I still, like I said, I still feel like we are in prehistoric times in terms of web and VR. Hopefully, it will change with time, but I don't know. I don't really like the 8-bit. Uh, well, I like it. I like the aesthetic, no, of 8-bit squarey things like Minecraft and stuff. But I feel like I am in a game, and it kills it for me. I want the VR to be a continuation of this world into this other world. So I think we are a long way to Ready Player One type of experiences.
Yes, that's more or less what I've seen. No, but the thing is that I would like to create things that people can experiment the same way. No? So it's the web viewers. It seems like an easy bridge, no, between the different like to create something that is accessible without the need to install an application specifically or something, no? Something like more easy to access. I don't know, maybe it's not, but
Yes. I don't want to downgrade or be rude with the creators that are creating those kind of things right now, because I really love that, and I think they are heroes in a way. They are like paving the way for what to come. And they are working right now with a lot of limitations, and it's admirable what they are getting into. And I got like these experiences. For example, I was in um, the party funeral for Oh man, I cannot remember now the name. Oh, this OG of crypto that died last year. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous and I cannot remember now the name. But it was like a party with 300 people, and it was a very moving experience. Uh, so I feel like, yeah, you can have a life-changing experience in the present VR state of things. But if we want to if we want to pair it with what it's possible right now in a gallery, we still have a long way to go. Yeah. Money Alota. Money Alota was the name of the great artist that sadly passed away last year. And it was very emotional to see all the people join it, and they created a very beautiful installation out of pure love. And I felt like I was being part of a moment in history, being in that party. So yeah. Mm. Don't be shy and ask whatever you want to ask, no matter what silly you think the question
Is
can be.
there any way to experiment your creation in VR from any place? I mean, is there any application that we can download to experiment any of your VR creation?
Oh, yes, yes. Thank you for asking, and thank you for your initial words. I didn't thank you for that. Yes, there is a small version of what we did with Franco in Canada in Artmure Gallery. The experience is called Limen, from the liminal space. And the sculpture is right now in a VR experience that I highly recommend you to download. It's called VR Museum, like museum, but without the M, the initial M. It's VR Museum. Uh, it's made by a Argentinian and a Spanish guy, and they are experts in Unreal creation. And they invited us with Franco to be part of this, like the first exhibition of this museum. It it can be viewed either in VR or in PC. Um, you it's better if you have a good gamer PC, because the model for the experience is like 7 GB um, of size, and it's a very beautiful experience. You can able you are able to walk with, in the different rooms. Some of them are experiences completely immersive, and one of them is our experience that is not as immersive that as it was in Canada, because in Canada the feeling of being able to touch the actual rooms of the room, the actual walls of the room, sorry, it was very interesting for people. But you can circle around the sculpture and hear a smaller version of the soundscape by Franco. I think currently that is my only experience available in VR. But hopefully I will be able to do something that I want it to be online with these new experiences I am working. Like, for example, this Procession piece that is like a lot of people walking together will be part. It's like a third of a of a VR experience that I want to create in the future with 2 more scenes, and they will be like making a circle around a circle around the spectator, and you will be able to see them in all directions. Uh, so I hope that that experience will be open for anyone.
This sounds quite exciting. Sounds amazing. To be honest, um, I've yet to see some of the galleries around me be so yeah ready. Hardly any, but some of the projects are really exciting, and I definitely would love to see all of your shows one day. It would be so awesome to be able to experience these shows in real life, sort of, you know. I don't really know how to say it exactly. Because it's in real life, but then it's also not. But then that's kind of the magic of it, right?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Maybe with this experience in the art fair, maybe we'll be doing some stuff with wind or uh, aromas in a way to make it even more like a continuation of the physical world. Uh, so I think that mixed aspect of VR can be like a really game changer in a way. So, I remember this play, a theater play, that it was done here in Argentina. It was very popular, and they did like for a lot of years, where you enter this room and lights went out, and you experience a lot of different stimulus, like sound, but also like small droplets of rain coming from the roof, and it was very magical. It transports you to places like from in one scene you were inside a bar, and it was theater, no? So there was like a lot of actors moving in the dark, like moving dishes and talking to one another in different directions around you, and suddenly all changed due to a conversation happening in the bar to a war scene, and suddenly you start to hear these explosions and the wind in your face and shrapnels falling around, and it was very powerful. It reminds me of the experience of reading a book, being deeply into that, and that is a kind of virtual reality you build now. So I feel like there is a huge, a whole new scenario that can be experimented and explored in the future.
Amazing.
I love what you,
Amazing.
oh, sorry. I love what you just said about the virtual reality and books being linked. I've often thought that books and those kinds of imaginal narratives that we build while reading books were the first virtual reality. So it's kind of lovely and to hear that coming from you too.
Sorry, it glitched a little.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that it was lovely that you were talking about how books and virtual reality are linked.
Yeah,
I've often thought that books are the very first sort of virtual realities. There's a lot of obviously sci-fi written about that as well, but
yeah,
yeah, the imaginal world, very powerful.
yeah, and maybe even before books, the oral traditions, like getting together around a fire and talk histories. If you are really deep into it, you're living it, no? I
Yeah,
was,
anything
yeah,
that splits
yeah.
reality, the narrative of that, where you've got 1 foot on the ground and then you've got, just step a little bit to the left and reality has rewritten itself and you're living in this jewel of what you expect to see, and then this this imaginal space. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah. Yes, yes. It's. I was reading the some of the comments, and someone said that it was amazing to have a trampoline to jump into the world. Yeah. Or a wind tunnel, and like be floating. I think I have seen some woman like with a VR headset on a wind tunnel, and that can be really amazing. But again is uh, I don't know what I think it's still unexplored is far from the game aspect of it, like competition or other aspects. I think there is a lot of things that can be done in a more contemplative way, like a slower pace.
Well, everyone, we usually when we host the AMAs, they continue for about an hour. And since the conversation is so excellent, I just didn't want to stop anybody. But I wonder if it's time for us to wrap it up. If anyone has a last question, now's the time to ask. Unanimous silence. Well, thank you everyone for joining this session, and thank you, Lucas, for taking the time to share your creative process and expertise and experience with us. Um, Everyone, you should follow Lucas on Twitter, and if you have any further questions, definitely ask him. He will be joining our mentor team. So, with that said, this
So
is
thank you.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Boria.
you.
And I should add that if any of you have any question, my DMs are always open on Twitter, and I will be happy to share knowledge or maybe even ask you some questions also.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely
Thank you.
day, evening, morning, wherever you are.
Thank you. Thank you.